Hey everybody, it's me Laura, and today we're going to create my Asian fans cane. Yes, oh my gosh. So right here I'm taking some white clay, I flattened it out in a number 1 setting, and I'm just going to roll this up into one giant log. Now once I get that white rolled up, this core is going to be, or I should say this white center core, will be 1 3/8 of an inch in diameter. And once I have that, I'm going to then take a piece of black that I'm going to flatten out in my Atlas pasta machine on a number 1 setting, and once I wrap that around this center core, it will wind up being 1 1/2 inches in diameter. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take my scissors, my small scissors, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim this up on the other side. I had I had excess. I usually always do. And you can use your scissors or you can use your blade. It's truly up to you, but I like to use my scissors. Anyway, taking a little bit of white, I had a little bit of a hole, so I'm just plugging that in. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and reduce down this little simple cane. I want to mention here that the clay I'm using here is not Kato clay. Generally and most of the time I use Kato, but I wanted to try something a little different. And I'm actually using the off-brand clay here from the craft stores. And this stuff works really good for blending and everything else, but I wanted to try it out and see how it would do on its reducing. I think, overall, I was pretty happy with it, but I do believe my Kato might do just a little bit better when creating this design, but I think this is a good test of that, off-brand clay. Now, with this all being said, I have to say that I was kind of working against myself here. My white clay was more conditioned and softer than my black clay. So that's why you saw some of that white coming out from the center originally. Now, right here, all I'm doing is I took that white wrapped in black clay cane, and I flattened it out kind of into like an oval piece. And I made a few sections of this because I wanted to have more, I need a few sections of this to create this particular pattern. So the more you have of it, the better off you might be. And you might want to be able to make more of these initially than what I have, presented here. Now initially I was not going to go ahead and put a registration mark on this cane, but I really kind of needed it, partly because I need to have a point, and when I need that point, I'm going to have that registration mark. So I took a little bit of my white clay and I put it right down the center of this to give myself my registration mark. This does not detract from the pattern. I thought it might, but it did not. So I was was pleasantly and happily surprised about that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start cutting our segments from our segmented petal cane, or I should say segmented cane. And I want to say I did like 4 of them right here. The more you have of this particular feature for this particular cane, the better off you are. I found that in making this particular pattern, I really would have liked to have done more, but it does take a little bit of clay, and so I was trying to conserve my clay a little bit. I think I had 4, I might have had a few more extra. I was trying to really extend it as much as possible, but right here I'm taking another piece of smooth tile. I'm pinching that point where that registration mark is right on the edge. I really like doing that. So if you have like a smaller tile around, this really helps in trying to get a nice fine point. Okay, now that we have these all pinched into segmented petal canes, we're going to go ahead and place them just as I've got it going here. So every single one, you flip it around to where it's pointing the opposite direction. Excuse me. And then once you have that, make sure it's in a nice fine point. It really kind of helps it a little bit. At least I think so. And then go ahead and keep putting those little sections together. This is where I really recommend having more of this particular cane because you can make it go further. Like I said, I was conserving my clay here. I could have added on easily another 4 sections, and that might be a good idea. See right here, I had more of this, so I thought, okay, let's try and add some more in. Except I wanted an extra row. So like I said, if you can add more of the initial cane into your first row, it not only helps a lot, but you'll have more of this pattern to use. Okay, so you can see here I went with 5 of these petal canes on the initial, first row. And I took a piece of flattened out black clay, and this was done on a #1 setting on your pasta machine, on your Atlas for me. And then I'm just kind of placing this right over the top of these canes. And I'm using the handle of either my Exacto knife, or I had my burnisher there, which was thinner, and I really like that. It really kind of pushed the black clay into where the crevice was going back and forth into that wavy pattern. So I put 1 layer down, and then I put a 2nd layer down of black as well. I wanted to really make sure I get that nice black layer or row of waviness between the segmented petal cane area. Now I need to mention here that when I was doing this and I'm putting that black layer over the top, I was also fighting against myself. This is where the soft clay can sometimes work against you because the bottom part of this particular piece wanted to flatten out. It was just, like I said, my white clay was pretty soft. So this is where your hard clay can really make a difference when you're trying to keep that form a little bit. And, if it gets so soft that you're like, okay, I'm losing the form on the bottom side of this where I don't have that black part, go ahead and place it in your refrigerator. Try and get this thing where it kind of cools down. Because I was going right into it and I was reducing it down and everything. So, when you do that, of course, I like to say that the clay was loosey-goosey, likes to move a lot. And so when it's like that, it doesn't always want to, keep its form. See right here, I was fighting it, but I cut this in half anyway. I got it there. And then I'm placing the other bit on top. See how I'm saying? It was like I was trying to reform it here and there because I was losing my form. So, like I said, try to use a little bit of a harder clay if you can. Or, when you get these clays, don't condition them a ton. I think I used way too much conditioner is really what happened. Anyway, I've got this now split in half. I took the other piece, I put it on top. And when I do these things, I try to make sure that they're a block form. So I had to kind of cut that one side off, and then I thought, yeah, we'll just place it on the other side. And this way, then it'll complete up a nice block type form. Once I had this, I needed to go ahead and decide, do I want another row? Well, this is pretty short. I only had a 1/2 inch deep on this. So cutting it would be ridiculous at this point. I needed to go ahead and just reduce it down. But to do that first, before I was going to do that, I needed to place another black layer on the bottom. This is where I wanted to have, okay, this is my bottom part of my cane. And so when I place it, and I just repeat what I did on top. 2 layers of black on the #1 setting on your pasta machine, making sure I have that wavy pattern. And then once I had both layers, I went ahead and made up like 3 black logs, I want to say, that would go into the wavy area. And each of those little logs were like a 1/4 inch in diameter. Once I had that, then I could say that was my bottom part. So I'm not going to put any part of the pattern against that. It's all going to go on the other side. So after thinking about it a little bit, I thought I want to go ahead and cut off those top humps on the very top part. And you're like going, okay, why? Part of it was because I thought, and really it helped me a lot. When I go to reduce this down and I'm going to cut it in half, that block cane or that brick that I'll have will be the same thickness on both sides. So in other words, the black part that separates the little segmented sections will be the same on both sides. Well, if you cut it in half, put one on top of the other, you're going to have double that black thickness. You don't want that. So that's why I cut off that particular part of that cane. So when I go to reduce this down, I cut it in half, it's going to look like the way the pattern is supposed to come out. Okay, so now we're going to cut from our first initial reduction, and I have to say I was a little surprised because I was scared this was not going to work, but it worked out perfectly. I mean, setting it side by side when I cut it in half, it was absolutely wonderful. Now the big test though was putting it one on top of the other, and that's what I did here. And that's what I wanted to see happen. If I wanted to put 4 rows up, it works. So that's why I cut off that initial black piece so that when I go ahead and say I wanted to place it one on top of the other, it would look correctly. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk as I put this cane together. And yes, you are going to notice that some areas don't just mesh up entirely together, and that's where you just kind of mess with your cane. But have some fun watching the rest of this. Okay, so these are the results of my Zentangle Styled Polymer Clay Asian Fan Cane. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I'm sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.